When Jacksonville resident Cheryl Taylor arrived at her regular hairdresser, she thought that it would be like any other haircut she'd ever received. Little did she know that this would be a trip that she'd never forget. As Cheryl reclined back in her seat to allow her stylist to wash her hair, she suddenly felt very dizzy. She'd never had any problems before, but this time was different. Her hairdresser immediately sat her back up and called up her client's husband. Cheryl told her husband that she was coming home to lie down to get some sleep, but her condition continued to deteriorate. She started feeling nauseous, and her daughter, who accompanied her to the appointment, insisted that she go to the hospital. She was still skeptical that it was totally necessary. But when medical staff told her that she was suffering from a stroke, the reality of the situation came crashing down around her. For my own personal peace of mind, let's find out what could have possibly happened that turned a simple visit to the hair salon into a stroke. Let's get into it. Sound engineer Dave Tyler was in desperate need of a haircut, so he strolled into a hair salon and asked if they had a spot for him. Before long, he was in a chair and the hairstylist was asking him what he wanted. They offered him a hair wash and bent his head back over the wash basin. He felt a twinge of discomfort, but nothing he couldn't handle. It would be over soon anyway. Not 2 days later, the 45-year-old was sitting in a business meeting for his work when he felt a splitting headache rocket across his skull. Soon, the side of his body went numb. His eyes went ping and started rolling. He said that he started feeling nauseous and took a swig of water without knowing I'd lost the ability to swallow. The water wasn't going anywhere, and I couldn't breathe. Because of this, Dave inhaled some vomit into his lungs, eventually giving him pneumonia. But that wasn't his most pressing issue. Soon, after trying to take a sip of water, he collapsed and was taken to the hospital. There, medical staff found that he was suffering from a stroke and moved quickly to get him the treatment he needed. Doctors noted that this was the result of a blood clot that had burst, sending many smaller clots into his brain. Just thinking about it makes my head feel weird. Dave was stabilized in the ER and spent an additional 3 months in a hospital before moving on to recovery for another 5 months to develop the strength to walk with a cane. He has since convalesced, but he'll never be able to drive or sail with his family again because of double vision he developed after his stroke. While in the ER, a consultant with London's National Hospital for Neurology and Neurosurgery asked Dave a surprising question. Have you had your hair cut recently? Dave Tyler isn't the only one with this experience. Scottish nurse Adele Burns also suffered a stroke just 1 day after getting her hair cut at a salon. Californian woman Elizabeth Smith, aged 48, visited a hair salon in December 2013 and only spent 10 minutes getting her hair shampooed. Just a week later, her entire left side was weak, and a week after that, she collapsed after a massive stroke. To this day, she still has a clot in her brain, and each night she says, "I go to sleep wondering, will I wake up tomorrow?" As for Cheryl, from our introduction, she's doing all right now. She managed to avoid the majority of the negative side effects of a stroke, and she still regularly visits her old hairdresser. What the heck is going on in hair salons that keep giving people strokes? Don't panic yet. Just getting your hair cut isn't dangerous. Aside from the whole, razor-sharp blades in the hands of a stranger. No. According to Dr. Sarah Jarvis, clinical director of website patient.info, says that it's washing your hair at a salon that carries some risk. Jarvis continues, saying that beauty parlor syndrome was first described in the early 1990s, when US doctors found several women who had sat with their necks stretched right back over a hair salon sink had strokes. You won't believe how much just asking for you to like our videos and leave a comment below helps us out. If you really enjoyed today's episode, hit that subscribe button and click that bell to get updates every time we upload. What exactly is a stroke? A stroke is basically what happens when blood flow to your brain is cut off or interrupted, preventing your brain from getting the oxygen and nutrients it needs. Blood clots are usually the cause since they can break off elsewhere in your body and ultimately flow to your brain and get stuck. It is crucial that a person suffering from a stroke gets immediate medical attention. I am dead flipping serious right now. A stroke will give you permanent and crippling brain damage. Generally speaking, a stroke will affect one side of your brain, so any numbness or paralysis on one side of your body is a really bad sign. If you have trouble speaking or seeing out of one or both of your eyes, that could also be a giant fiery red flag that you need to get to the hospital. If you're trying to identify a stroke in another person, you can ask them to smile, raise their arms, or repeat a simple phrase. If you hear that their speech is slurring, one side of the person's face or body consistently droops, or they can't move it, call paramedics immediately. Having a stroke is a legitimately terrifying concept, so it makes sense that people are concerned about how to prevent them, especially from something as mundane as getting a haircut. What actually is giving people strokes? The prevailing theory for each of our cases is that one of the main arteries to their brains were damaged. Dr. Jarvis says that if the lining is torn, blood clots can form. And of course, blood clots can lead to strokes, as we just learned. What exactly is happening in the salon that could damage an artery? Dr. Jarvis, in an interview with The Sun, notes that since the early 1990s, doctors had found several women who had sat with their necks stretched right back over a hair salon sink had strokes. Though she adds that it's very difficult to establish if this sort of neck stretching over a salon sink actually causes a stroke. For instance, other injuries to the neck, like a whiplash from a car accident or bungee jumping, could damage the artery. If you ask me, the worst part of getting your hair washed at a salon might be the fact that a stranger has to touch your head. Ugh. But while leaning back over a wash basin isn't the most comfortable position in the world, how could it possibly damage an artery? Dr. Richard Bernstein, the medical director of the Comprehensive Stroke Center at Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago, told journalist Katie Heaney that beauty parlor syndrome, while eye-grabbing, isn't the scientific name. In reality, it's a vertebral artery dissection from hyperextension of the neck. Basically, you tore up an artery in your neck by leaning back too hard. The problem, Dr. Bernstein says, with the label beauty parlor syndrome is that an artery dissection can be caused by getting your hair washed, but also things as simple as getting out of bed in the morning, stretching, or even sneezing. He continues saying, "It is so rare that it's a waste of time to worry about it." Well, it's probably not a waste of time to worry about it, but what else can cause this kind of injury? According to Cedars-Sinai Hospital, an arterial dissection can be caused by swimming, skating, dancing, sports, yoga, roller coasters, trampolines, childbirth, sex, sneezing, or seeing a chiropractor. The risk may be so low that we might as well not think about it. But my anxiety won't let me. So let's figure out how to avoid dissecting our arteries and giving ourselves a stroke. Dr. Nima Al-Gabraham, an interventional neurologist at Baptist Health, says that unfortunately there isn't much we can do to prevent these injuries. However, the only thing that we can do is to avoid any extreme neck movements that could be sudden. Dr. Robert Connie, medical director of the stroke program at HCA Healthcare's Grand Strand Medical Center, adds that while avoiding lengthy periods of hyperextension, you can also request neck support, like a towel to rest your neck on during a hair wash at the salon. Dr. Connie continues, saying, "Really, the best advice is to request a shampoo with your head bent forward rather than backward." It's also useful to mention that not all salon wash basins are made equal. There are dozens of differing brands and types of varying complexity and comfort. Ideally, all you need is one that can adjust height and angle in order to make sure your neck is aligned safely. If none is available, again, you can ask to put a towel down. Most importantly, don't feel like you need to push through discomfort. If something hurts or feels strange, just ask them to stop. I still want to know what I should look out for, just in case. Dr. Bernstein says that neck pain can be a symptom of arterial dissection. However, it is unlikely to be the only symptom, nor the most prominent one. He continues saying that neck pain can be caused by a great number of things. That's almost never a cause for concern. But the more universally recognized symptoms of a stroke should be dealt with immediately. Getting pain in your neck while getting your hair shampooed at a salon doesn't mean that you're going to have a stroke. Facial slackness, paralysis on one side of your body, and loss of vision are giant flapping red flags that you could be suffering from a stroke, and those symptoms should be monitored closely by medical professionals in a clinical setting. In the end, Dr. Bernstein says that we're no more at risk of damaging the arteries in our necks getting up in the morning than we are at the salon. But I'm still probably gonna ask for a towel next time. The reality of being alive is that even the most innocuous things can end us in a snap. Luckily, humans have been living and dying for a long time, and we've seen a lot of ways that we can bite the dust. The important thing is that we recognize the dangers in our everyday lives and take reasonable steps to protect ourselves. The key to this story isn't that you shouldn't go to the hairdresser anymore. In reality, only 2% of all strokes happen due to dissection of an artery, and even less are from the hair salon. They're much more common in whiplash injuries you'd get from a car accident. What's important is that you talk about your needs with your hairdresser. If you're really anxious about it, politely asking to wash your hair facing forward and a gracious tip to show your appreciation will be all you need.
New hairdo? More like hair don't!